The Single Seed Challenge for 2023. Are you taking part? Because I am. If you're wondering what the Single Seed Challenge is, why, it's a means created by Black Gumbo Southern Gardening, which is a YouTuber, to allow gardeners to get basically more in touch with their gardening selves, to allow them to, that's not a very good explanation, it allows them to focus on a single plant. The way I've heard this described is, generally speaking, when you are tending to your garden beds, you're thinking, oh, here's my bed of tomatoes, or here's my several pepper plants, and you're thinking of the crop that you're going to get. The Single Seed Challenge isn't about a crop. It's about growing a single seed from beginning until end, basically. And generally speaking, the way you're supposed to do this is you're supposed to take a single seed, which I have my seeds here, and you're going to plant it out in a container. You know, you can start it however you want, but the goal is you start it, or not the goal, the plan is you start a single seed. You move it through its various growth stages until the end of the growing season, at which point the plant generally would pass on, because that's the whole goal. Is you're not really supposed to. I mean, you could, but usually gardeners will take something that's an annual, so they don't do this generally with perennial plants. Now there are exceptions to that, like some people will do this with pepper plants, and pepper plants are technically perennial, just like indeterminate tomatoes are technically perennial. There's a lot of plants that are technically perennial and they aren't grown that way, but I digress. Anyway, usually you're going to take an annual, you're going to grow it from its very beginning to its very end, when you're throwing it in the compost pile or whatever it is you would normally do with it. And if you get a harvest, because it's that kind of plant, then great, you got some produce, and that's great, but that's not really the goal. The goal is just to nurture this plant individually from beginning to end through its entire life cycle, and to focus on it as an individual. It's an exercise in being deliberate, and to take care with what you're doing, and to document everything as you go, just so that you can not only look back on it and learn from the mistakes that you make, or that others have made, since the goal is also to share this content, and then everybody basically takes part in this, and they can see what everybody's doing and how everything's going. Now, if you start a plant like I'm going to, and your plant, say, it germinates fine, it grows, you plant it out in a pot, and then it dies because maybe you get a cold snap or something and it was outside, then you document that and you just start over again. You start over with either a new plant or a new seed if you still have enough time in your growing season for that plant, and you just keep going. And you just do this until the end of the year. So I am not going to go with something that produces an edible crop. Some people do, and that's fine. That's, in fact, probably better than what I'm doing. But I am doing something for a plant that I've always been kind of fascinated with since I heard about it. So I am a big fan of the Nightshade family. Now, aren't we all big fans of the Nightshade family? You've got your tomatoes, you've got your peppers, you've got your eggplants, you've got potatoes. Those are all in the same family. And then if you're like me and you're a little weird, you also like things like Solanum dulcamara, which is bittersweet nightshade. That's my favorite plant. It's a native plant to here. It grows all over the place, and it's just kind of a fun little nightshade. It's also called snakeberry or just bittersweet. It is technically poisonous, mildly. It's not terribly toxic, but I keep some of this generally growing, not in my garden, but in containers or like kind of adjacent to my garden throughout the year. I'm just a big fan of this plant. I like this plant because my mother got me a sprig of it when I was a teenager, just as a surprise, and I grew it kind of hydroponically almost in an old Pepsi 2-liter for months and months. It was in a window. It did okay until I played the stereo too loud and the vibrations knocked it off the speaker that it was using as a stand, and it fell and died because I was dumb. Anyway, I have some outside in the garden now, or at least I did up until the frost came and killed everything, so maybe I don't have any. We'll see if it comes back this year. If it doesn't, well, I know where to get more. But anyway, this isn't about Solanum dulcamara. This is about a different variety of nightshade, about one called Solanum Atropurpureum. Now, Solanum Atropurpureum is a nightshade that grows in Brazil natively. And it's called the 5-minute plant. It also has a more interesting nickname that I like called Malevolence. So as you can see here, that is Solanum Atropurpureum. Now I got these seeds from a company called hayfield.com, and Nancy Andra, apparently, I think that's her name, runs hayfield.com, and she even emailed me and said, oh, this is a very interesting, cool choice. It's called the 5-minute plant, though, because that is the estimated amount of time that people who have never seen this plant will stop and stare at it for the first time when they see it. It's called Malevolence because it is probably the most sinister-looking plant that I have ever seen a picture of. And I would really, really like it if I could grow Malevolence, at least for a single season. Now, it is a perennial. It can last anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And the plant gets 6 feet tall. It's not a tiny plant. But what it does is it grows, and it grows like a purple stem. The stems are covered in spikes as the plant matures. The spikes get bigger. It grows spikes that get to be like this long, sticking out all over the stem. Like, it's just terribly thorny. Think of like some of the worst thorny roses you've ever seen. This has probably got that beat. The spikes, the thorns I should say, are purple with yellow tips. And the plant then grows these yellow to orange berries that look a bit like tomatoes on it, and the little yellow flowers that are more typical of like other nightshades. But the way this plant grows is it grows, and the plants are purple, the leaves are purple, like the whole thing is purple and dark green. And it has these huge spikes that cover it with yellow tips on the spikes. The whole thing is just very striking. So I am going to attempt to grow this as my single seed. I have quite a few seeds, actually. I ordered a dozen seeds, and the packaging is marked 12 plus seeds, but I have easily twice that. So if you're looking for seeds, especially interesting seeds, give hayfield.com a chance. That's hayfield.com. My transaction with them went flawlessly, and here I've got the seeds for a plant that are somewhat hard to find around here. So the only other people that I found that had the seeds in stock when I looked was a company in Europe, which is also interesting because you wouldn't think it would grow well there either. But anyway, I'm going to grow this for my single seed this year, and we'll see how that goes. I'm talking about the single seed challenge for 2023, but in my area, it's not quite yet time to start this. So I will be starting this. What is today? Still early-ish February, right? So I will be starting this probably in a month. March? Yeah, I'll probably start these in a month or so, and take you along. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, and until we talk again.